Alright, as we progress in our series about fairy tale and these elements, this would now be E16. We're taking these finite gravities, these forces of gravities within the collective understanding. We're taking these points of attraction, these points of creativity, these inspired half-lives, and we're codifying them into an all-encompassing understanding of um, a fairy tale, elements of a fairy tale. And this is another big one that I am thinking about right now. And it has to do with questions. And this is very powerful because questions are the avenue, the Sagittarius, from which the vibrator goes and explores through mutable fire new worlds of understanding. So a child is born into question, and as he's born he begins to think about the things around him vibrationally. He asks the vibrational question, and what the vibrational question is a paradox. Remember our paradox and the inspired half-life? So these questions are the building blocks to the intellect that a person will gain. As they ask powerful enough questions, they will have global impact. They will have a global pulse, and they will have a global energy transformation because of how powerful the question was. And the mathematical reciprocating answer in the universe is within the fractal person who asks the question. And so we all are question askers, and the questions we ask create the reality that we get. So, born into this idea of story structure, 7 billion people on the globe, and they all are connected to the source, divided. So they are fractal patterns of living beings on this earth, and they start from scratch. They have an internal resonance, but as they begin to kids, MGMT, when you were a child, you were crawling on your knees for it, and you look around, and all these subtle influences as you were growing up have caused you. Once you decoded, once you were vibrationally ready to understand what a question was, now you had the aptitude and the ability and the intellect to understand life through the idea of what a question is. Questionnaire is very powerful. Each person is a series of questions, and you can reflect each other through questions. So it's a great way to communicate, is through the question itself. Here's a riddle for you. There's a reason for the world, you and I. So questions have to do with understanding your own intellect and your own self-concept and your process. And the questions will be your legacy. The questions that you ask become your points of attraction, become the vibrations, attract the Gemini twins to go along with you on your journey. And as your matrix, the spider totem, begins to build, then there is a lot more energy to go around and have more forces, more vibrational asking in directions of certain questions. And they become focuses. They become focused points of gravity that people begin to share, and they gather around their question-asking potential. So once they ask the question, then the solution becomes a wavelength to reach for, a separate wavelength that is a parallel reality on the emotional catharsis of the lower wavelength of the sine wave. So back to the book, playing defense, playing offense, and knowing the whole scale of the playing field. So, at any one time, we are giving off a point of attraction, and then if we pull in our energy, that's a Leo theme of courage. When we pull in our energy, we then go to Sagittarius and mutate our fire, and we begin to ask questions. We start having questions. The people, they're starting to question. They're starting to question the idea of existence. They're starting to question the idea of religion. They're starting to question the idea of hierarchy. They're starting to question the idea of countries. They're starting to question the idea of going to school. In fact, they put you into a structure. A Saturn structure is already developed. The Aquarius archetype is the technology that's being poured forth and down of information that you're ready for. Now, if a person starts to question what is the relevance of this to my matrix in school, he would be sent to the principal's office. And that is how, if I would get to go back and be a little baby again, MGMT, crawling on your knees for it, all throughout school, that would be my focus. I would ask the questions to the place where they stopped diverting me from asking questions. So if the principal couldn't do it, if the therapist couldn't do it, then if they'd send you home, if they would have a caseworker with you, whoever that would be Pisces archetype that this would be found. So the idea of the process of the mutating fish, of being pulled another direction from the direction you're headed, is Pisces archetype. But in school they ask, in life, in the understanding of what this experience here on Earth, the experience of our globe is, when we ask questions, we are seen as inferior. But, of course, we're all inferior, because inferiority is the law of the wavelength, is the law of the sine wave, is the law of the paradox. So once the kid learns about paradigms, they learn about, I'm thinking Conor Oberst's Bright Eyes. Bright Eyes, paradigm, paradox, these words, allegories, metaphors, these words, as a kid begins to grow in his stature, he begins to understand things that then help him in all the areas of all houses of life, all areas of influence, and each battlefield that the character takes his Aries energy to. So there's something really powerful in vibrating in directions that are question asking. Of course, if it's Aryan, if it's on the leading edge, it's not accepted right at first. But it then becomes the spider totem, understanding that the kid must then, this is the totem of the pelican, actually, of flying away from your troubles and then finding a better place to reintegrate. So it's ignoring, it's nihilism, it's dropping a wavelength completely to restructure and re-put people in the structure where they belong. Introduce them to your structure, which again is a very powerful way of using law of attraction. So these questions that people ask, I have come up with a concept through my friend Chris, the idea of Project Neptune, which Project Neptune represents any Venus project that you have in life. Anything you share between two people then gets divided. But whatever inspiration comes from influence, then a person goes and is inspired to actually pick up a hammer and make the world reflect the higher octave of Venus, which is Neptune, and making the world look pretty. So through Project Neptune is the idea in the universe of asking questions, of being the ultimate platform, the ultimate arena, the ultimate stadium. I'm thinking of what I'm trying to say. The ultimate the ultimate coliseum for asking questions is Project Neptune. Asking the biggest questions that your mind can come up with, and being right there for the catharsis of the answer. So, that is Element 16, questions.